Hello, everybody. This is Ryan from the Stitch Drop podcast. Thank you for joining me. This is a mostly knitty, but sometimes other crafting podcast, and I'm coming to you from Western Massachusetts. And it's been quite some time. 6 months, maybe? I'm so bad at this. I know I say this every time, but I'm really bad at this. I have missed the podcast. I've just been kind of crazy all summer. I'm not going to make excuses. I don't know. I've been living my life, working, playing hard, that kind of stuff. I feel like such a dork when I say that. Please excuse me. I've been kind of like sick on and off all summer, and right now I'm going through a bout of bronchitis, so I'm going to try to edit out all of my coughing, but I think it was like episode 2, I was taping somewhere where someone was lawn mowing, and I remember it was a real pain in the butt to edit that out every time the lawnmower went by, so I don't know how much I'll get out, so just be forewarned. I'm ill, but I'm doing something about it. Drinking coffee today out of one of my awesome Wonder Woman mugs. Since the last time I've podcasted, that amazing movie came out. Have you seen it yet? Oh, I think I saw it like 4 times in the theaters. I bought it the day it came out on video. I've probably watched it 8 or 9 times since I got it. So everybody is going absolutely crazy about it, or they did. I guess it's kind of quieting down a little bit now, but it is a great movie. If you have not seen it yet, you should see it. I think they did well with Wonder Woman. I did have a couple issues with it, but I always have a couple issues with every movie, so big surprise, right? Especially when it's something that means so much to me already. There's bound to be something that I don't agree with, but I thought they did a pretty good job. More importantly, they had no plans to make a second Wonder Woman movie, ever. And now it's been such a success, they're even talking about it possibly being one of the most successful DC movies in the current franchise. Maybe the most. I'm not sure. And they made no plans to secure the director, Patty Jenkins. So I guess they finally worked something out, and there will be a second movie, but of course, they underestimated her, like they always do. I've been waiting this whole time because every time these DC movies come out, there's huge merchandising. Like, you are still seeing Superman and Batman figurines and stuff in all of the stores. They're still selling the Halloween costumes this year. Wonder Woman merchandising? I mean, this is what I've been waiting for. I wanted to buy all of the things. It's not as big as you'd think it would be for being one of the top grossing DC movies. What's with that? I mean, she's out there. That's great. It's not like, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and you couldn't find a Gamora action figure anywhere, but I'm still a little disappointed. The mug that I'm drinking out of right now is merchandising from Superman vs. Batman. I haven't found any from the current movie yet. Just something to think about. Like, why are we not going crazy? Maybe it's just me, just because I love her so much. I want to see her praised. I want a statue in the town square of this woman. So my phone's buzzing. I'm doing a download. I was hoping I was going to have Ravelry at my fingertips, but my phone was like, no, you need to download. And now there's no battery, so it's going to be completely useless to me. It's great. Awesome. All right, so knitting. Now that I've ambled on for a little while, let's get back to the knitting. You'd think being gone for 6 months, I would have done so many things. And I kind of did. I mean, I'm looking at my pile of stuff over here to talk to you about, and it's not bad. It's pretty big, but I don't know. Not as much as I would have liked to get finished, and I guess I'll get into why that is. So let's start with finished objects. And first off, check this out. This is my Chainlink sweater by Norah. I think I showed you this in my first ever podcast episode. I started this sweater in April of 2016. It is made with Cascade 220 in 220 fingering, which honestly, I feel like it's more of a light fingering to heavy lace, but that's just me. I'm looking for those extra skeins so I could give you the skinny on it, but so Cascade 220 fingering weight. That really is like what the color looks like. It's a plummy purple color. It looks a little more blue back here, probably because of the lighting. And I found it to be one of the hardest colors to photograph, but it's like my favorite color to knit in. I have a lot of stuff in this color. You'll see that coming up too. So made out of 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I found it to be very nice to knit with. It looks like it's a 2-ply. It's not super tightly plied, but it's not too loose. So I found it, for how loose it is plied, not very splitty. Maybe because there's only 2 plies. I bought multiple skeins of this. I wish I could tell you how much. You'd have to. Let's just say here. I put all of my projects on Ravelry now. It's the only way I can keep everything straight, I guess, which is why I wanted my phone. So I bought multiple skeins of this, probably like 8, 6, 8. I don't know. What's the put up on this? I did not tell you that. 273 yards per skein. So it was a lot of yarn. I think I usually buy approximately 2,000 yards. I usually buy like 10 skeins of wool to make any given sweater. Just because I always want a little extra. I know I'm a little heftier, but I don't think I'm as big as I think I am because I always buy way too much yarn. So I've got 2 and like 2/3 skeins left. So it went really well. Obviously took a really long time if it took me a year and a half to finish the sweater, but I put it down so many times. I think I originally put it down so that I could work on expert knitter program classes, and then I was picking up other projects. So I've kind of just been working at it a little bit at a time, and eventually I finished it. So it's got a slip stitch pattern across the front. There's a whole bunch of these ribbing panels that come to this really interesting V shape. I don't know if you can see it because it's almost the same, a little bit, almost the same color as my mannequin, but it's got this little V shape so that it comes up almost, that's almost like crop tight on the side with 3/4 sleeves. It's almost a boat neck. It's built like a boat neck across the top with the collar, but the collar is very close. So I guess maybe it does almost fit as much as a t-shirt. And sometimes you notice the collars on the t-shirt are a little bit too tight for me, so I usually cut them. I'm gonna see how this wears. I'm hoping it's not gonna be too close to my throat to not be comfortable. But Massachusetts, New England people, if you're not from here, oh my goodness, we've had like this cool, wet summer where I thought maybe I could wear a sweater, but it hasn't quite been cool enough. Today is it's September 22nd? 22nd. So it's officially fall now. And now it's 90 degrees this weekend. Like, I'm dying in here. So I want to be all like, sweater weather! And it's not yet. It's got warm enough just in time for fall. It's crazy. So I haven't really worn it yet. We'll see how it goes. I do work in a refrigerated building. However, the office area that I work in has approximately 100 people stuffed into this open area, like open space office. So it gets really warm in there very quickly. So it's probably going to be a sweater that I'm not going to be able to wear to work, even though that's what I was kind of hoping for, just because it's going to get so warm. I usually wear camisoles underneath my sweaters so that from about here down is covered, but my shoulders are open. So I did try it on with one of those and it doesn't feel too scratchy. It feels really nice. It's great. It is not, did I say it was superwash? I should know that before I put it in a washer, huh? I usually try to buy superwash as often as I can. I don't think it is, no, because it's 100% Peruvian Highland wool, so I'm gonna have to be careful with that. But I love it. I'm excited. It's fantastic. Yay, big one off the checklist. So, finished object. Woohoo! Finished object number 2. I joined the mystery Skein of Thrones from the ladies at Legacy Fiber Arts. It was a 5-skein mystery club, and they were all going to be influenced by Game of Thrones, in case you didn't notice. Hence, Skein of Thrones. And I knew immediately. This spring, summer, the Find Your Fade was like all the rage. I am not much of a shawl knitter, and this thing is like a monster of shawls. It's bigger than my wingspan. It's huge. People have been blocking them in like they don't even fit across their beds. They're blocking them on fences and in their backyards and stuff like that. This thing is huge, and it's all garter and stockinette and a few yarn overs. Like, it's not, I don't want to say it's boring, because a lot of people find it to be very therapeutic and zen-like, but I don't like that kind of stuff. It kind of bores me. So I was kind of debating if I wanted to do it. I couldn't find some skeins in my monster stash that I was kind of willing to just toss at this project that I felt mediocre about, so I held off. And then Andrea Mowry came out with her So Faded sweater, which takes the idea of the color blending from the So Faded shawl and puts it into a sweater. That's my jam. And right about the same time, the Legacy Fiber Arts ladies were coming out with this Skein of Thrones kit, and the two just went together. And I was like, you know what? I don't care what they look like. I'm going to take all 5 of those skeins, and I'm going to make a So Faded out of them, and, you know, whatever. This is my final project. So, the colors are kind of coming out, but there's a lot going on here. Oh my goodness, is it crazy? But I love it. It's there's so much to say about this. Well, let's talk about the yarn club. It was really pretty amazing. I did not realize at the time, though, that the Legacy Arts ladies, when they do a club, mix up the bases on the yarn. So this is not all the same kind of yarn. Let's see, they've got multiple bases. So there's Cozy Toes, I believe, is their MCN blend that's got the cashmere in it. So I knew when I got the first one, when I got the second installment, and I realized they were separate bases. And I had cashmere that I at least wanted to put the cashmere up on the top. So I wanted to keep it near my throat. Like I said before, with the camisoles underneath, my up area, the shoulder area is going to be bare. So I wanted the softest stuff on my skin. And they also have steel toes, which is essentially their sock base. I don't remember if I think it's 75-25 superwash and nylon. So I wanted that to be on my cuffs and on my hem, which is where I get the most wear and tear on them, understandably so. So I kind of thought about that, and I was thinking I'll wait until I at least have the first couple of skeins. I thought about waiting until I had all of them, but I thought, you know, it's fine, whatever. I'll start with a few skeins, decide what order I want those to go in, and then as the new ones come in, I'll just kind of adjust. I ended up waiting until I had 3 or 4 out of the 5. And I did keep the nylon on top. I mean, the cashmere on top. I apologize. So I started with, this was actually the second color, is Dragon Eggs, based on Daenerys's character. So I'll show you that. It's got some purples and some blues and oranges, and it's pretty brilliant. It's fantastic. I really love it. And it blended into, oh, it just kind of turned a little blue, but this is the last installment. I think it came when I was halfway down the raglan. And it's Weirwood. It's got blacks and pinks and whites in a kind of muted palette. I also have, this is Winterfell. It's greens and blacks mostly, with a few flecks of pink in it and a little bit of red, which I think is ironically supposed to be a weirwood tree. Okay, so that's where I started going. And I used a little pinks and flecks of reddish pink to kind of meld them together into a nice fade. I feel like it really faded really nice. And let me say, I didn't like Winterfell when I first got it. I didn't dislike it, but I was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I can see where she was going with it. That's cool. Yeah, I'll probably like the other ones better, but it's fine. It'll be great. But then I started knitting with it. And when I was making this Winterfell stripe, I really wanted to make like a whole sweater out of this colorway. It's kind of, at first I thought it was like an evergreen, but it's almost minty, if that even makes any sense. It's fantastic. And I know Sue's been talking about it on her podcast on the Legacy Knit Girls. I don't remember what they call it. But she's been talking about it, and they keep talking about how she can use it as a neutral, and I agree. I never would have thought of it, but it's pretty awesome. All right, so then we move on to Hear Me Roar. And the inspiration picture they posted was a picture of the Iron Throne, but I think it's supposed to be Lannister inspired. There we go. And it's got lots of reds. It's got some brilliant blues. There's a lot of orange in there. It's in their glitzy toe, which is sparkly. It is the only sparkle yarn that's in this whole sweater. You can see it. There's so much sparkle. So I have a single line of sparkly yarn in my sweater. It's crazy. I love it. And then finally the last one. This is the Eerie. And it's all browns and blues. And when I saw it in the skein, it looked like there were some red speckles in it, but then once I started knitting it up, I mean, you can't even see any. There really were not any red speckles in it when I started to knit it up. There's like one or two. So the red did not carry through the entire sweater, but it's fine. I wore it to work already. I made kind of a weird, awkward bathroom selfie so I could show it off on Instagram. I'm going to get some good finished pics of it. But one thing, if you are going to make this pattern, I will say the arms came out really long. And you know how I am with swatching. I kind of made a swatch. I swatched very quickly with the first yarn before I started to get a rough stitch count, but I did not swatch each of the yarns. I didn't really, I mean, I measured, I kind of just checked it against the pattern to see if it would work and was like, yeah, it'll be fine. So I at least thought about it ahead of time. I'm growing up a little bit, but the sleeves just still ended up way too long. They kind of come down to like my fingers. I really could have put thumb holes in them. I probably should have. And then the sweater itself is a little bit shorter than I usually like it. I did add an extra 2 inches, but I didn't decide to do that until I was already like here. So there's a lot more of these other 3 colors in there than there are of the first 2, which, I mean, it's okay because I still have a little left. It's going to go into my scrappy blanket that I will show you, but still, I could have made it a little bit longer. I also, I don't know if it's because my arms are so round up on the top. When you fade them on a raglan and you work, I worked the same number of rows in the sleeves as I did on the sides. And so when you lay the sweater out, it looks fine. But when you go like this, like the stripes don't match up across your arms. They kind of tilt up like this. So once I realized it after the Weirwood colorway, I kind of started extending the colors a little more in the sleeves. Otherwise, half of my sleeve would have been, and actually, you can see, you know, here's one color, here's another color, and then the rest of the sleeve was the last color. So I would have spaced that out a little more so that the lines carried over the sleeves a little bit. And that's a learning curve. That's not easy to do, so I'm not worried about it. Overall, I'm thrilled. I'm calling this a Rhinebeck sweater. I will probably be wearing it. Total success. Awesome. finished object number 2. Finished object number 3. I don't have them right now. I finished my Hulk socks for Gary. He has barely taken them off of his feet. I'm not sure where they are right now. The second I finished them, I had him try them on, and they just stayed there. Like, I don't even think I got to wash them before he was wearing them. So at least they worked out okay. I will insert a picture here. He did let me take them because I promised I'd only show his feet. So, but they came out really good. The sock pattern worked great. Those socks feel like they're going to last forever. The yarn is still really soft, but it's plied very tightly, so it feels very durable. This was Into the World's Radioactive colorway. It was in their micro stripes. I don't remember what they call. It was the Glochester sock. Ha! I remember the Glochester sock. It's supposed to make little micro stripes, and it did, but I had a hard time with the color because the way it was pooling. The first time I cast it on in, I think, 72 stitches because me and Gary's feet are a little bit wider. His are a little bit wider than mine. So I did 72 stitches, and all of the green was pooling on one side and all of the purple and gray was pooling on the other. And it looked kind of funny, and he didn't really like it either. So I played around with the needle sizes and the stitch numbers until it started to kind of micro stripe. And it worked really good until I got about halfway up the foot, and I realized that the micro stripes were pooling so that they were also striping. So I had spiral stripes of light green and dark green, and another spiral stripe of purple and silver going all the way up the foot. And we looked at it and kind of agreed that it was okay. It was fine. And then I got to the heels. I was using the Sockmatician toe-up pattern that lets you make a toe-up sock with a heel flap and gusset, which I prefer because they're more durable and they just fit my feet better. But after we'd finished that and we got up to the cuffs, it pulled again anyway, and kind of in big bunches of green and purple. So I just left it, but they worked out pretty good. I would totally buy the yarn again. I think I have actually. I have another colorway. So hopefully I'll cast those on soon, but finished object number 3. Done. Time to move on to half finished objects. A kind of half one. So affectionately known as a hoe. Hoe. I said hoe, hoe. Yeah. No. All right. This is white birch fibers. She is known for her self-striping yarns, specifically her rainbow yarns. They stripe so that they look like there's a little rainbow stripe, and then like a sky stripe or a color, or like a cloudy stripe, and then a rainbow. I got one of her other ones. I saw her at Stitches United, they call it now. It's not Stitches East anymore. And I picked up a pair of this. So I'm using the Afterthought Everything socks. I am making knee-high socks for myself. I'm calling these my Tim Burton socks because they remind me of just about every Tim Burton movie because he likes to use lots of black and white stripes, and from like Beetlejuice to Jack Skellington. I mean, it's in all of the movies. So there's a little red. She did have sets where there was a main color striping and then like a contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs skein. This one did not come with one, and I saw the red next to it and I was like, I must have this. So I grabbed the red. This is called Crazy Eyes, which I don't know if it's a pop culture reference to Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black, because I did see some colorways that were named similar to that, or if it's like, you know, in cartoons when cartoon characters get hypnotized and they like their eyes spiral. I don't know. I'd have to ask her. I'll ask her next time. So it's not really a half finished object. It's really a whip, but I'm getting pretty close. I've had to recalculate this several times. First, I started making like mid-calf size socks, but then I thought, if you're going to get striped socks like this, they need to be knee-high. They have to be. they're meant to be knee-high. So I sat there and unraveled the whole thing in front of my poor mother, and you should have seen her face. You'd think I licked a slug the way she was looking at me for unraveling all that work. It was longer than my arm when I unraveled it at that point. I was onto the second foot. I could clearly see I had more than enough yarn to do this. The put up on these skeins is something like 480 yards. It's crazy. So I've got more than enough. But I also have really hefty thighs. And it doesn't matter how much I weigh. I just have genetically athletic calves, which I'm very proud of. But it takes a little extra math because I have to be able to get the sock all the way up there. So I've done that a couple of times. What kind of cast on did I use? I feel like I used a different kind of cast on this time. I wrote it in my Ravelry notes, which I can't access right now, but it took me a while to find one that I really liked. But I did. I am into the foot now. This is marking where I will put in the Afterthought heel in red. And I tried to pick a point that was in the middle of a couple of stripes so I don't interrupt the pattern. I'm now doing, I think it started as a 4x4 or 4x1 rib in the calf, and then I decreased off of those ribs in through the calf for the shaping. For the shaping. And now I'm working a 3x1 rib, which I interrupted for plain stockinette stitch where the foot will be. So there won't be any ribbing on the bottoms of my feet to make me uncomfortable. It's going really well. It's taking forever, but they're knee highs. They're going to do that. It's a good project to keep around with me. I brought it to the Big E last night. If you don't know, that's like supposed to be an exhibition. It's basically a giant fair for you to go buy things. There's new products and lots of food and stuff. So there's lots of walking around. I stuffed it in my new Slip Stitch Studio bags, which I got as part of a Wonder Woman kit with Yarn Zen. And it's really awesome because it's a drawstring bag. It's got a closure thing, you know, like the spring-loaded ones. And then I would just like loop it over the wristband and carry it around on my wrist like that. So I was knitting all night. I have my wallet in here. I got my medications and stuff. It fit all of my things. I didn't have to worry about having a purse. I didn't have to worry about anybody. I'm kind of paranoid about pickpockets, which is kind of crazy, but ain't nobody taking my stuff. So it's working out really well. I'm liking it. I just haven't gone to a lot of movies lately, so I feel like I haven't gotten as much sock knitting done as I normally would do. Working on it. One last thing. Somebody brought to my attention, I thought that I was working, what do they call it? I mean, obviously I'm not doing 2 at a time, but magic loop. I thought I was using the magic loop method. I still kind of feel like I am because it's the same theory, but I'm only doing 1 at a time. And somebody had told me that this is called traveling loop, where I would use an extra long cord, which is hard to see because everything in my life is black right now. But there is 1 long cord. I'm using carbons. I think they're like size 0s. And I just knit down 1/2 of the sock and then move the needles and knit down the other half of the sock. Where with magic loop, you would do it across 2 socks with 2 separate balls of yarn. I don't like using that, but just an interesting idea. Traveling loop. Never heard this before. So, half finished object number 1. Half finished object number 2 is a Christmas present for someone. I'm not going to say who. Excuse me. Mom might know. I know she watches my podcast. I don't think the person this is intended for does watch the podcast, so I think I'm safe. But I have a half finished object. And it is my pencil sock from Yarn Enabler. She dyes yarn that can be worked up to look like a pencil. It's very cool. She also dyes yarn that can work up to be paper. I'll get into that in a second, but the whole idea is that the sock comes with, technically, let's just call it 3 skeins. There's a mini skein that's black that turns into brown. There is a giant skein for the yellow, and then there is another skein that turns from the silver into the pink. So you would just knit them at the appropriate locations. I ended up getting the full set to make 2 pencil socks. She does sell mixed sets, so you can get the paper and the pencil together and make 1 sock out of each. But I thought, I want a pair of these for myself. This will be a Christmas present, so this is for the intended recipient. I will use what's left over in my Made by Jess Lou bag for my personal sock when I get around to it. I'm waiting for the paper sock yarn to come to me. And I'll talk about that in a second too. But I'm going to make one of each. The other one is white, and it's got little blue stripes on it like lined paper does, and there's a little pink stripe at the top. She does also sell in her shop a pattern by which to make the sock with. I did not use the pattern. I also used the Sockmatician's Toe Up the sock recipe for this sock too, because again, I like it. I think it's very durable. It works out really well. This sock is not blocked. I don't think you can tell how wonky the stitches look right now, but they actually don't look that bad. The yarn itself is, again, pretty tightly plied. I'm pretty sure it's a 75-25. It feels really sturdy. The yarn itself, I wish, if you look at the silver, it's got a couple little dark streaks in it. The yellow has a lot of white in it. If I had one wish, it would be that the color was a little more consistent in each of the skeins. But I don't mind it. I don't think the person who's receiving these socks is going to care. It's fine. I know she has recently adjusted her colors specifically. I think the brown used to be darker, and she'd had a lot of feedback from her customers that it didn't quite look like a pencil. The colors weren't quite right. And so she adjusted. So she accepts feedback and works off of it, which I think is really fantastic. I did use a Turkish cast on. I did it with double pointed needles. If you ever tried that before, it's really awkward. It works a little better if you're using the traveling loop or the magic loop method, because when you pull the needle, never mind. It basically makes like an S of a whole bunch of stitches that go down your needles. And when you pull one needle out to knit the other ones, it leaves a little more space. You don't get that when you're working with double pointed needles, because you still have the 2 needles there holding the stitches and you're working off of them. So there's a little more tension on the yarn. So it's a little more fiddly, and the first couple of rows are a little difficult, but I didn't feel like yanking my needles out of that other sock just for the cast on. So whatever. Then when I got up to the top, I usually use Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, just because it gets enough stretch for me, and again, the calves, I need a lot of stretch. However, someone, Nathan Taylor actually, I think, suggested a modified Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off. And with the stretchy bind off, I don't feel like I'm giving anything away, but you essentially do a yarn over in between every cast off stitch. So there's extra yarn there, so it's a lot more flexible. But when you do that, it tends to kind of flare at the top, which you don't usually see when you're wearing the socks. But I do see it when the sock is sitting in my drawer, and I don't know why, but it irks the heck out of me. I think it looks messy, and it gives me like heebie-jeebies. I don't like it. So I tried this modified one, and essentially what you do is you cast off the stitches, but you're only doing the yarn over every other stitch. So it's almost as stretchy, but it doesn't flare out like crazy. Now this is not blocked. It's never been worn, so it is flaring a little bit. I don't know if it will later on, but pencil sock, half object number 2. Let's start with a disclaimer before I talk about the paper yarn. I do not want to badmouth anyone, and so this does not come from a place of hurt or any ill intention at all. And because it could be misconstrued that way, I almost didn't even want to say anything, but I also want to say I kind of love when things go wrong with purchases, because then you get to see how the seller reacts. I don't want to say at their worst, but you know, in a time of crisis. I mean, if everything goes great, then everything goes great, but you never know how they're going to react if things do go wrong. So when they finally do go wrong, you get to see what they're made out of as a seller. So it's an interesting opportunity, and I enjoy that. So I ordered the full set of the pencil socks, so I would have one of each, and then I ordered a full set of the paper socks, so I would have one of each. And I know the seller has been going through a lot of stuff in her personal life lately and had closed the shop for a little while. So as soon as I saw the pencil yarn come up, I was like, well, I know I want the half and half set, but I don't care. I'll just make another set. I'll buy this now, and then when the paper stuff does become available, I'll use it. So I got to knitting the first half, and then maybe a couple weeks later, a new update came to the shop and the paper stuff was available. So I bought the paper stuff immediately and was like, that's great. Like, I could have waited, but it's fine. I have what I want now. So I ordered the paper yarn, and when the package came, it had a half and half set in it that was obviously intended for someone else. Like, it had a different receipt in it. And it looks like she just put it in the wrong envelope. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And I contacted her, and I got to say, she answered the message within minutes to an hour. She was right on top of the communication. Super sweet, you know, not a problem. I'll take care of it. And I said, okay, well, I'll ship this back to you. And she was like, great. As soon as you ship it, I will refund you the shipping. It'll be fine. So I went to the post office a couple days later. I shipped it. I sent her the receipt, and she refunded the shipping for that immediately and said, you know, I'm gonna send this back to you. But long story short, it's on its way now. So it's been a pretty easy transaction. I'm expecting it within days now. I think it's coming from Canada, so it's got to go through customs and all that kind of stuff. I think it came in 10 days the first time. I think today is day 10 and it's a Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. I should be receiving it shortly. But good communication, all good so far. I'm very pleased with the product. I'm pleased with how it came out. One more shot. There we go. So, yarn enabler. Half object number 2. I already said that. Half finished object number 3. This should be a finished object already, and it's not, and it kills me. I've been using 2 project bags for this, and I don't know why. I got a new bag from Stitched by Jessalou. Tell me how cute that is. Pretty freaking cute, and it's huge. Little pricey, but it's, I mean, she makes her own fabric. They're really well made. Like, I don't mind paying it. It's nice. This would hold, I want to say, a blanket. It's the biggest bag that she makes. So I thought I should probably, I don't have any really big ones. I didn't have a lot of, well, I didn't think I had a lot of sweater size bags, but it turns out I can fit a lot more in the bags that I already had than I thought I could. Anyway, for some reason I'm using 2 bags. I think just because I wanted to use them both. I am working on another Midsummer Aran sweater. It is all open lace work. You can see it a little better there. The color is, it looks like a lilac. That's really graying out. It's really more of a lavender. It's a warm, light purple, almost like a pinky purple. It really is it's a true lavender. You can check out my Ravelry pictures. I have some pretty good pictures. I started this for a summer knit along with Opera Joe from the Stitching the High Notes podcast. I obviously didn't make it because I didn't swatch again. Mind you, this is something like the 3rd time I'm making this sweater. When will I learn? I think I have, but I started this in the summer, in the early summer. I'm obviously not going to make it for wearing it this year. I mean, I guess I could wear it in the winter around the office, like if I wore a coat over it. The back is nice. It's mostly stockinette. There's this, like, here it is on this side, this like webbing stitch on the sides, but this is the back. And it's got this really beautiful faggoting stitch that goes all the way down. It's really nice. I've already made one of these. I may have shown it to you before. I know I posted it on my blog about how ugly the first one came out. The first one came out overly huge because I used the wrong kind of yarn. This one I guess I made the wrong size. I don't know. It's a raglan, but it's worked from the bottom up. So by the time you realize it doesn't fit, it's too late. You're already 3/4 of the way through the sweater. So I got a little over the arms and realized it was way too big and thought, what am I going to do about this? And I ended up just ripping the whole dang thing out because I've been hoarding this yarn for a very long time. This is Valley Yarns Longmeadow. I think it's Longmeadow. If it's not, I'll put it down there so you know what it is. But it's discontinued. Whatever it is, it's discontinued. It was a 50-50 cotton microfiber. It's since been replaced with Conway, which I think is a cotton acrylic blend. This is a little bit softer. It's a woven yarn or like a cable plied yarn. It's really, really nice. I really like it. I'm glad I got it before it was discontinued. So I bought enough of it specifically to make a sweater and was like, great, I'm going to have a sweater to wear over the summer. This is fantastic. And it's just not working out that way. I did take the needles off of it right now because I also, if you look at the pattern, you can see in what's supposed to be the middle, there we go, there's this beautiful cable pattern, except you see where it branches off of this middle section? I didn't do that up here. And I thought, that's okay. I can ladder down and add the cable back in and bring it back up. But there's lace behind the cable. It didn't work out so well. So I'm kind of in the middle of throwing a lifeline in here so that I can go back a whole motif and add the cable back in. And after ripping it out the first time, I was just like, I have no patience for this. So I dropped it and I started the fade sweater, which I've now finished. So I should be going back to finish this. I haven't yet. I will eventually. I still have not finished my Stray Moy cardigan, Mom. I know. I'm working on it. It'll happen. That was the colorwork sweater that used to be up here. I had put the button band over the steek and it fanned out and I didn't realize it until after I started putting the buttons on. Somehow I sewed the buttons through both sides of the button band, so the sweater is now sealed shut. I'm a hot mess. It needs to be fixed. I'll do it eventually, I promise. I said I would get it done before the winter. Mom keeps poking me, but she's right. I need to finish it. Wanted to show off one more bag. This one. Isn't it fantastic? This is a Manicory bag because I love her patterns. I love her bags. I love her fabrics. As soon as I saw this, I wanted it. I held out for a really long time. I probably shouldn't have, but it's super adorable. It's got little pink specked fabric on the inside. It's super adorable. So as soon as I got it, I was like, I want to use it. But I was only working on this, and I already had it in a bag, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put a bag in a bag. I don't care. I'm going to use them both, even though I don't have to. I gotta say, if you're watching, I'm always afraid I'm going to say your name wrong. Is it Elena or Elena? But if you're watching, I love that you started putting progress keepers on your zippers. I usually use it as a zipper pull, and then if I need one really quick, it's there. But I love her bags. Go check her out. Manicory. Here's another one. It's got little origami like northern creatures on it. There's moose and elk and wolves and squirrels and birds. Is there squirrels? I might have lied. But it was so adorable I couldn't not buy it. I'm spoiling myself a little bit, especially for somebody who's supposed to be saving up for Rhinebeck. This one has a wrist tab on it, or a whatever you want to call them, you know, something to carry it by. Really like that. What's in here? Upcoming project. This one's exciting. Okay. So I really shouldn't have started any more projects, and I should be done with everything because I am starting up my classes again with webs. I didn't have any classes to take over the summer. I've been waiting for this one fall class to come up. It is the last one before your big capstone project. It's sweater construction. So it teaches you how to calculate things like sleeve caps and collars so that you can make your own design and write your own pattern. You have to take all of the other classes before you take this class. It has to be the last class you take before you make your finished project, which is a full sweater that is knit to your measurements. So it starts on Monday. I have to do some swatching. I had to read some chapters in the text, which is all fine and dandy. I have decided to use the yarn that I personally dyed from one of the other classes I took. I decided to take a class with the kangaroo dyer for one of my electives, my non-knitting electives. And this is what I came up with. Let's see if oh, that's better. That's so much better. I took a brown yarn, which is the one that's in the ribbing at the bottom. I think it's called Dust. It's a discontinued colorway, but it is superwash. It's Rowan Superwash Wool DK. So I took the brown and I overdyed it with blue and purple with a tide resist. Oh, there we go. A knot, like a knot resist technique. So essentially what I did was take the yarn from the ball and skein it, and then tied knots in the skeins, and I dipped it in blue, and then I untied the knots, retied them in different spots, and then dipped it in purple. And this is what I came up with. So it's got a little bit of brown, it's got a little bit of purple. Ooh. I'm wearing so much black. I gotta learn to stop wearing black on the podcast. But I like how it looks. I've got an idea for a design. I had to make a swatch, so I made a swatch. Yay! See, I know how to do this. I'm just too lazy is the problem. Another technique that I picked up on, and I think I got this off of the, what's her name? The lady that has the app where you can learn to make your size. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you'll have no idea. I'm sorry. Fit to Flatter, I want to say. Maybe that was the name of her book. You could find her if you Googled that. Fit to Flatter. But you'll know what I'm talking about, or you'll figure it out. I'm just going to leave it at that. She had a post on her blog about the best way to swatch, and she was talking about making big swatches and everything, but she also suggested that you take the size, let's put that over my face so you can see it. Take the size needle that you're making on your swatch and make a number of yarn overs in the size of that needle. So you can see there's 3 yarn overs here. I used a size 3 needle. I think I was using my carbons interchangeables. So that way, she suggests switching needles multiple times so that you just take this one swatch and make it longer and switch your needles and make multiple panels that are attached. So you could use the yarn overs after you've blocked it to see which one was made in what size. So you can pick the needle for your favorite fabric. I only did one. I liked how this felt before I blocked it, so I just did the one. This has been blocked. I don't feel like it changed all that much after I blocked it. I did also try to add the ribbing so I could calculate what I would need for the collar that I'm going to do. We'll see if I've got enough. I dyed 13 skeins. However, I only bought 1 skein of the natural color, and really I just kind of bought it well, I mean, they were all natural to begin with. So I bought 14 skeins. I did not dye one of them just because I wanted to show the contrast between the original color and what it looked like afterwards. But now I've decided I really like the idea of using the original color for the accents, like the collar and the cuffs. And if I have enough, the hem. So this is going to be a pieced sweater. It has to be pieced and seamed, but I don't know if I have enough yarn for the cuffs, the collar, and the hem. So my only thought for how to resolve that would be to use it for the collar and the cuffs. The collar is traditionally done last, so I'll use it for the collar and the cuffs, and then decide afterwards if I want to add a hem. I don't know how I'm going to make this work, because I'd have to make the bottom of the sweater work in such a way that it would look good whether or not I had the offset, the off-colored ribbing or not. I've got some ideas, but it's quite the conundrum. How do I get myself into these situations all the time? So this is what's living in this Manicory bag. That's an upcoming project. Like I said, I've got a lot to talk about. I'm trying to move on as quickly as possible because I know you like to see the knitting. This bag I also bought over the summer. I think it's it's Thank God for Bags. It does have a handle. It has a pretty hefty zipper. It is, I bought it because I like the fabric. It's based on my astrological sign. I am a Cancer. I'm so a Cancer. I love all of the bags that I've bought, but I have to say that this bag in particular is the most diesel bag I have ever used. It feels like it's got some very hefty interfacing, so it's very stiff, but not in an uncomfortable way. Like it feels heavy. It feels like I could put a bowling ball in this bag. The stitching is it just feels very tough, very hardcore. Like I could put a bowling bag in this and swing it around my head. Well, the handle might come off if I did that, so I won't, but it just feels like it's very well constructed. On the inside is this cute fabric that has all of these constellations inside to go with the theme. I think there's more of them. Yeah, there's more of them on this side. It's so cute. I love this bag. I'll buy more of these for sure. She's another one who's got some very interesting fabrics. So sweater class is starting on Monday, and I kept telling myself I don't need to start another sweater. I've got 2 in the works already that I'm frustrated with but just need to be finished. I'm starting another one on Monday. I don't need to start another sweater. I couldn't help myself. I've been thinking about this for quite some time now. I decided I wanted to use backup. Gabby of the Once Upon a Corgi podcast. I've bought a ton of her yarns. I just bought some more because I can't help myself. She makes the most beautiful yarn. Let's look at this one. Exhibit A. Look at this. This is her Demon Unicorn colorway in her penny base. Nope, ginger. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Her ginger base. It's 75 superwash, 20 nylon, and 5 gold stellina. Look at that, how that thing glitters. She is the one who made those ice dyed socks that I made, I don't know, earlier this year. I just love her colorways. They're fantastic. I love them. So she had paired this with another colorway called Like My Cold Dead Heart. This one actually happens to be in the same base. Look at that. It's beautiful. And I would never think to put the 2 together, but she did. And I really liked them. She was making a shawl that she striped. I looked at her project page on Ravelry and she never took any finished project pictures, so but it's beautiful. And I thought, I want to make something with those two colorways together, but I don't make shawls. We already discussed this. So I decided I wanted to make the, is it called the Breathe Easy sweater? I will insert a picture. This is what it will look like. I don't know how those short row stripes are going to look with these two colorways because there's a lot of purple in both of them, but that's what I want to do. So that's what I started. It's a raglan, so you work from the top. There's a nice little collar to it. This is how much I have done. It's enough that it's already scrunching up on the needle. I think I need a little bit of a bigger needle, but I'm probably down to like here. I am almost to the point where I would start the striping that goes up on the top of the chest. So I'm making some progress. Look at that colorway. Ooh, it's purples and reds and grays. Oh, it's so beautiful. However, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I did go to Connecticut Sheep and Wool, and I met her. I had met her before. I had met her in November at the Biggie at the New England Fiber Festival, and evidently I made an impression because she remembered me as the crazy lady. I get a little fangirly when I see people from the arty world that I'm impressed with. So, yeah, I try not to be awkward, and it doesn't work. But it was kind of cute. We got to talk for a couple minutes, and I was so excited. I guess I just wasn't paying attention, and I needed some more of this colorway. The first time I had bought it, I believe I bought 2 skeins of Like My Cold Dead Heart in the sparkly, and I had bought 2 skeins of Demon Unicorn in the sparkly. But when I got to Connecticut Sheep and Wool 6 months later, I couldn't remember what bases I had bought, and I think my phone was dying, so I couldn't check Ravelry. So I looked at what she had, and I was just like, yeah, this'll do, no problem. And I got the wrong one. I bought it on the Marie Cutie base, which is 75% Corriedale, 25% nylon, no stellina. So I thought, well, I could buy another skein of this one, I could buy another skein of the sparkly one, and either way I would have enough. But I didn't want to waste it. And it actually is really, I've never knit with Corriedale before. And Gabby's always talking about it and how much she likes it. So I thought I'd give it a try. And I've decided that I'm going to use the non-sparkly base on the top, and then at the bottom part with the cuffs and the hem. Basically anything that's not in the striping. And all of my Demon Unicorn colorway is sparkly. So just to be on the safe side, I did buy another skein in this colorway with the sparkles. And I'm going to keep all of the sparkles in the short row stripes that are in the middle and work those together. So I can use as much of this beautiful yarn as possible. And then whatever I got left, then, I'll figure out what to do with it then. So, working on that. That's in progress number 2. I don't know. I'm losing count. Too many projects on the needles. I know. The other thing is my skein, I balled it up, and I'm getting that nasty little yarn barf, where you have a caked skein of yarn and the inside kind of starts to come out, and then it turns into an ugly, awful, barfy mess. I still have quite a bit to this skein left, and I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want it to get tangled. It's not so bad when you have a little bit left because you can kind of work from it and untangle it as you go, but I've got like half a ball left, and it was just falling apart. And a trick that I've come up with, or I don't know if I just had the idea and somebody else had the idea, or if I heard it somewhere first. I picked the wrong color sock for this kind of thing, but I took one of my old socks and just stuffed the skein in there. I like to keep my old socks that have holes in the toes and the heels to use for this reason, but I couldn't find any, so I just took one of my winter socks that I'm not wearing right now. It's like microfiber. I shoved the skein in there and made sure that the part where the yarn is coming out was on top so it doesn't, have any extra tension on it. Wonder if I can, yeah, you can kind of see it. It's looking like yarn barf, but it pulls easy enough. and it keeps your whole skein together. So at least it'll hold together long enough for you to get to that little endy bits where it's not such a bad idea. So that's going in my bag. This, I think I'm working on my number 2 Nova Platina interchangeable needles. They are in 2.5. I'm sorry, 2.5. I think it's the smallest size you can get on an interchangeable. And I find that all of my sweaters that require something like a size 4 or a size 5 needle, I end up working on 2.5 because my gauge is that big. Now, Mom asked me recently, why is your gauge so huge? It doesn't make any sense. I think it's because I've recently realized that I work so far from the tip of the needle. It stretches your stitches a little bit, so I've heard. So recently I've tried knitting closer to the edge of the needles to see if that makes any difference. I haven't noticed any, but it's a good theory. It's a working theory. That might be what's happening. I would like to be able to figure it out because I would like to knit something on something like a size 10 or 12 needle someday. That would be cool, except those stitches would be the size of my head. So we'll see. I've got one more, I promise. I'm almost done. This is also a Stitched by Jessie Lou bag with Harry Potter characters. I love her bags. I really do love her bags. The only, I don't want to say it's negative feedback, but the only feedback I have about it is don't throw it in the washer. I threw mine in the washer and the fabric faded. So I don't know if you can see it. I'll show it one more time. It looks like it's got this like denim wash fade on it. And that's because I threw it in the washer. I did not throw it in the dryer. I let it air dry, but it happens. And I'm sure it has to do with the inks that are used to make the fabric. And it's got pretty swirls, magic swirls on the inside. That's what the fabric on the outside looked like afterwards. You can see the difference right there. It made me sad, but it's my own dang fault. I didn't ask for washing instructions. I just threw it in there. I probably could have emailed her. I'm sure she would have contacted me back, but... So this is my scrappy blanket that I have picked up again. I started it, I don't know, last year, the year before, but I wasn't very good at mitered corners, and I kind of screwed it up. I only worked half of a mitered corner and didn't realize it for several rounds. So it kind of had a rounded edge on one side, and I tried to fix it by adding stitches, and then it just made it ripple. It looked really bad. I didn't like the colors that were laid next to each other. I might put a picture there. It's on my Ravelry page. The first attempt looks pretty bad. So I unraveled the whole dang thing. I used the yarn I rearranged my colors and made a magic knot ball. I don't like magic knots either because I usually use superwash yarn. In superwash yarn, they chemically treat the fiber to slough off those scales that are on the wool of the sheep. It's not a hair, but you know, like the fiber itself. So it makes them smoother. That means there's not all that much to grip onto each other. So when you make a magic knot, it's much more easier to slip apart when those scales are gone. Some people swear by them. They swear it still works with superwash. All of mine always come out, so I don't do that. But I did tie a little knot. I think you can see one. I might as well just show you the project. This is how it's coming out so far. It looks so much better. It's using up all of those little extra nuggets of yarn that come from what you've got left over when you finish your socks. This is the 10 stitch blanket pattern. You literally work 10 stitches around and around and around in a spiral until it's big. I decided to make it a little more rectangular. Maybe someday it will be big enough to go on my queen size bed. I don't know. This is I'm on my 3rd colorway right now, but I have put together my ball. This is what my magic ball looks like. This is actually the green that's left over from socks that I made for my mother last Christmas. The Christmas before. It stops focusing on my face. But I need to see my computer. There we go. It looks like that rainbow colorway that's in that picture is just underneath it, so it's coming. I remember purposely putting them next to each other so that the rainbows would be next to a solid. You can see I started the green down here. So it's getting there. It's looking good. This is actually the wrong side. I am using, the pattern has options for how you join the stripes together as you're working. There is a slip stitch method and there's like something else. I'm using the slip stitch method. That's what it looks like. But I really think it looks nicer on the back side. It's got these like, there we go, elongated stitches where the two colors meet. And I really like how that looks. It looks very clean to me. I like the texture that it makes. So that's basically what I work on when I'm sick of what I'm working on, or if I'm too tired to really think about my knitting. It sits right next to my bed and I'll just do a couple of lines before I go to bed. So this is probably like 8 months worth of progress because I just do a few lines at a time. But looking pretty good. So that's all I've got for projects. I am not going to show you all of the stash that I've accumulated over the summer because it's just too much. I do want to tell you though, a lot of people get upset when other podcasters show what they've recently purchased because they think it's like they're bragging. Like, oh, look at all the money I've just spent on this yarn and I can afford all of these beautiful skeins and look at all of this wonderful stuff that I have. If I show you yarn, it's not because I'm doing that. Really? It might be because I'm so excited I want to share it with somebody who knows what I'm talking about. But I'm mostly doing it because I love it so much. I want to, sorry, a squirrel just ran by behind the camera. Not in my house, but out the window, and it totally distracted me. Really, the reason I'm showing it to you is because I love the dyer so much and I want to show that appreciation by sharing this with as big an audience as I can. I want to promote other people's products. I know at some point I want to start, you know, having my own Etsy site, and I would hope that somebody else would want to promote my product because they love it so much. Everything in the yarn community depends on word of mouth so much. I want it to be fantastic. On that note, there is one yarn I want to share with you, and I'm kind of looking around the room for it. I've bought so much yarn this summer, I cannot share it all with you. It would be a 3-hour special just talking about. I'm so bad. I behave so badly. This is Gabby's, one of Gabby's newer colorways, called God Killer. It is a Wonder Woman inspired yarn. Look at how beautiful that is. There's blue and red, and they're very muted like her costume is in the movie, and it looks like there's speckles of brown. You see them up here? It's pretty awesome. I saw it and I had to have it, especially being such a Wonder Woman freak. So I did buy 2 skeins of it. I think I'm going to, I got the cashmere base. I got it in the penny base. It is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So it's kind of machine washable. I have not seen a superwash cashmere. I'm sure that the cashmere that is blended into a superwash blend is not superwash. So I will do it with care, I promise. I have a wool cycle on my washer. I've sat there and watched it to see how much it agitates project. So I would be comfortable putting it through the washer and then air drying it, but that's going to be something for me this year. One more. Okay, maybe 2 more. It ties into what I was talking about earlier, which is the only reason I want to share them right now. Well, that and because they're so amazing. Another Wonder Woman yarn. It came with the bag that I showed you earlier, which is now underneath that giant pile of bags that I've been putting down. I got this from the Slip Stitch Studios, who teamed up with Yarn Zen, who is a yarn dyer. I mean, obviously that's not her name, but Inner Yarn Zen, I apologize, to create this kit. And this is on the Simply Sock base. This is the Wonder Woman colorway that came with the bag. That's amazing. Freaking amazing. The biggest problem I have with all these really great colorways is that I don't want to wear them on my feet because I feel like no one will ever see them. I want to wear them all around my face. Except I can only make so many cowls and so many hats. Who needs that many cowls and that many hats? Oh, I do like a good cowl, but this is also going to be something amazing for me. But look at that. Look at the speckles. Look at those speckles. I didn't think I was into speckle yarn for the longest time. Will you please focus? Thank you. But look at that. Oh, they're like streaks of speckles. I love it. I really love it. It's amazing. Okay, and then I was trying to curb my yarn appetite this summer because I was buying so much. So I made the mistake of telling Gary, Legacy Fiber Arts came out with a Nightmare Before Christmas inspired line of yarn. It's their Halloween yarn this year. Last year they did a Hocus Pocus inspired. I did not have a lot of money last year, so I missed out on it. I regretted it afterwards. Then when I saw they were doing Nightmare Before Christmas, I got so excited. So I ran upstairs and I said, Gary, I can't buy any more yarn. I don't need any more yarn. And I told him what was happening and he said, but I want Oogie Boogie socks. I've created a monster. Oh, this is washing out. Let's see if I get, oh, that looks better. These will be Oogie Boogie socks for Gary. It's actually the colorway I wanted to get for myself. Now it's turning a little blue, but there we go. That's better. Oh, look at that. It's so beautiful. But he wanted them, so I thought he can have Oogie Boogie. I got it on the steel toes. He tends to wear through a lot of socks, so I wanted to get it in the hefty stuff. But it's beautiful. And then if he was going to get socks, I was going to get socks. This colorway is called the Mayor. If I could get it to focus. That's a little better. I thought I'd get sparkle for myself, just to be a little different. Oh, look at that. I'm really hoping for a knit along. I know last year they did a knit along for the Hocus Pocus. They might not this year though. I might have to start one myself. They are doing a pre-Rhinebeck knitting show type thing called Needles Up. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. I'm going. I'm totally going. They've got a whole bunch of vendors who are coming. Known vendors. Like it's between her and Andre Sue Knits. Well, not her. I want to say Sue of Legacy Fibers with Andre Sue Knits. I know Chelsea's been helping, but Chelsea's got a lot going on right now. So when I say her, I'm referring to Sue. And they're going to be selling Andre Sue Knits knitting blanks. Sucre Miniatures are going to be there. I know, I don't remember her name, but the woman who makes them will not be there, but someone will be vending on her behalf. Spicy Homemaker is going to be there. She's running the line outside the event. It's like Comic-Con for yarn. It's YarnCon. It's amazing. So Needles Up. If you're going to Rhinebeck, see if you can go a little early and go check this out. It's going to be a madhouse, but because they're doing all of that, they had talked about having, is it another knit along later in the year? But they've got so many things going on. I don't know that they're going to have time for this. So I might just have to do it myself. I don't know. But that means I've got one more pair of socks to finish. I have 2 pairs of socks to make before Christmas. And then whatever else I'm gifting. I'm way behind on my Christmas knitting already. It's September. It's September, and I'm thinking about Christmas. I should have been thinking about it in July. There were so many knit-alongs, Christmas and July knit-alongs. Did anybody else participate in any? Have you started your Christmas knitting yet? I want to say go to the Ravelry group. If you haven't already, join up. I'm going to put a thread in there for Christmas knitting, and just, you know, maybe we can encourage each other to get enthusiastic about Christmas when it's 90 degrees outside. But it is that time of year. I mean, you don't want to leave it till last minute. I always do. And it makes my Christmas miserable. So maybe we can encourage ourselves or each other to get going on that stuff, you know? Let's see what we're working on. All right. I'm going to call that quits. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for coming. If you want to find me on Ravelry, my name is Reebo95, REEBO95. You can also find me on Instagram. Those are the two places I hang out the most. If you want to check out my written blog, it is knittingnowhere@blogspot.com. I have actually started writing. I haven't been able to film podcasts, so I've kind of started posting. I should have another post coming out soon. So if you miss me here, or it's been a while and you need to get a fix, because I'm so lovable, go see it. And I'll see you there. I'll be posting a lot of my pictures there. If you liked this podcast, I'm completely spontaneous and unreliable. So please hit, let me see the right side of the screen, hit subscribe. You will get a notification when the next video comes out, so you don't have to keep checking it back. If you didn't like it, thanks for stopping anyway. I'll see you later. Thank you for coming back. And if there's any new viewers, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon. Bye.